Hello, my name's Blossoms and welcome to another Genshin Impact video, and today we're going to be talking about Hamayumi and comparing it to the Amos Bow and the Rust Bow. Because they're all very similar, they all have attack percent substats, and they all affect your normal and charge attack damage in a different way. So I thought I would level them all to the same level and compare them so you guys know which ones you might want to be investing into going forward. But without further ado, we've got a lot to cover. Let's go ahead and check it out. So yeah, we're going to be using Ganyu for this just because she's a very simple character in terms of her normal attacks. It's going to be very easy to follow what attack is doing what. I thought about using Fischl, but Fischl's a little weird just because her Constellation 1 gives you some extra damage numbers and it can be a little hard to track. I just figured Ganyu might be a really good way to show off the differences in all of the bows, especially since Ganyu is also charge attack oriented, so showing the normal attacks and the charge attacks is going to be very beneficial. And just so you know, the normal attack is at level 7 here. That's really the only thing that's going to matter. The other stuff doesn't really matter. I don't have any constellations or anything. And then the artifact set we're just going to be using a very general artifact set of 2-piece Blizzard Strayer and 2-piece Shiminawa's Reminiscence, just because of the fact that I don't want to add any additional modifiers. Like typically I might be using like a Wondrous Troop set on her that gives that 35% extra charge attack damage bonus, but I didn't want to do that here just so we could have the bows showing off their what they're doing for the character rather than the artifact set. I figured this is probably the best way to do that. As for the actual stats for Ganyu, we're not going to worry about the attack right now because that's going to change bow to bow, but for the crit rate and crit damage, we're going to be at 71.7% and 130% crit damage. That's a pretty good ratio, so we're going to be using that. This crit rate is boosted by food right now, I believe, and we are going to continue that crit rate food buff throughout the whole video just to make sure we're getting those consistent crits. And then, of course, we just have like a little bit of cryo damage bonus, but that's only really going to matter on the charge attack there. And yeah, just so you guys know, we are also going to be starting off not with the Amos Bow here, that's just what is equipped, but we're going to start off by comparing the Hamayumi and the Rust, since they're both 4 stars, and they are going to be the most closely related. First off, we're actually going to start off with the Rust, just because this is the one that's been there. Let's go ahead and compare it to the Hamayumi. Now, do note my Rust is at Refinement rank 5, which is definitely going to matter. I wasn't going to level up a Refinement rank 1 Rust just for this video, just because that takes a lot of mats. I already took a bunch of my mats just to get Hamayumi up, and I'm leveling up plenty of other weapons, so there is going to be that disparity. So the Rust is definitely going to be outperforming the Hamayumi just based off of the fact that I have these high refinements, but let's just see how much it actually is. Now, looking at these stats with the Rust here, you'll notice my attack is at 1860. The thing with the Rust here is that it has pretty good base attack and a decent attack percentage modifier, and then its passive is increasing that normal attack damage by 80% and then decreasing the charge attack damage by 10%. So let's go ahead and check that out. So we're going to be bullying this guy again. If you guys watched my last video, I just have been bullying this guy lately. I think I've been spending too much time in that domain, and he's kind of where I vent my frustrations. But we're going to be normal attacking on him. Let's go ahead and get him out of his little DR phase here. Oh, I'm actually out of the food buff. Let's go ahead and re-up that one real quick. So there we got our crit rate, and he's out of his DR phase there. And we'll see what kind of damage we're doing. We're doing about like 2-3k-ish, it looks like. And then on our final hit there, we're dealing nearly 4k. And we don't have like any physical damage bonuses or anything going on here, so I'm not really expecting too much here. And I just kind of wanted to see what these normal attacks are looking like. Let's go ahead and see what a charge attack looks like. It's gonna be about 9k, so 5 and 9k are what the charge attack is gonna look like. Now let's compare that to the brand new Hamayumi. Now, as for the Hamayumi bow, the difference between it and the Rust is that its base attack is lower, but has a much higher attack percentage modifier, and then the passive increases your normal and charge attack. It doesn't reduce your charge attack, so your normal attack is increased by 16%, and then your charge attack is increased by 12%. And then when the equipping character's energy reaches 100%, this effect is increased by 100%. So if Ganyu has full energy here, she's going to be dealing 32% extra normal attack and 24% extra charge attack damage, which is actually really nice. And what we're going to do here, just to make this comparable to the Rust, is we are actually going to have full energy when we test this out in this one. We can go ahead and do it without the full energy as well, but we are mostly going to be comparing the full energy because of the fact that the full energy version of this refinement rank 1 is actually what the R5 at base looks like. So I think that's going to be a really good comparison, because at refinement rank 5 it says 32% extra normal attack damage and 24% extra charged attack damage when you actually refine it. So the passive here is actually going to help us make it look like an R5. And then we'll just kind of have to use our animation for the actual R5 with the passive increasing it by 100. Let's check out the actual stats here. The stats aren't too different. The attack is a little bit lower, I believe. Let's go ahead and double check that. We had 1841 with the Hamayumi and 1860 with the Rust here. So we have slightly more attack with the Rust. I imagine this is actually going to change a little bit depending on how high the base attack of the character actually is. I think that might come into play since you're getting a lot more attack percent on something like the Hamayumi. But Ganyu is a very high base attack character, so do keep that in mind. So even a very high base attack character like Ganyu, Rust is edging out Hamayumi just a little bit on the attack there. All right, so we've got the Hamayumi here at our full energy here. So we will be doing about 32% extra on our normal attacks here. And let's go ahead and check that out, get him out of his little DR phase. And we'll see how that compares to a refinement rank 5 Rust. I think Rust is definitely going to be beating it out, and as you can see, it definitely is. You can see we're only doing 1600, 2100, 2600, so we're almost doing nearly 1,000 less, or you know, pretty close to 1,000 less than the R5 Rust here. And that is with the full energy on the R1. Now do keep in mind, if we had an R5 Hamayumi and we're doing this, then we would certainly be a lot closer to the R5 Rust. But I do think it would still fall off. However, our charge attack damage here is actually going to be more. You see we're dealing 1,000 more on the first hit and about 2,000 more on the second hit. So that's really valuable. And this is only at R1, so you imagine at R5 this is going to be doing even more than it currently is on that charge attack. So that's going to matter. All right, and we're going to go ahead and show the Hamayumi off without the full energy, so we aren't getting double of the bonuses anymore. And you'll notice it's doing significantly less damage. I wish he wouldn't block. That's very annoying. But yeah, we're not dealing 3k on our normals, and our last hit we're doing 2300, and our last hit on Rust was dealing about 3600, so that is definitely a lot less. And the charge attack here is definitely going to be doing more if we can actually get it to crit. And yeah, 6k and 10k there, that is still more than the Rust, as you might expect, because we're not at a 10% deficit, but a 12% increase here without the full energy. But let's go ahead and talk about both of those. So yeah, as you might imagine, the Rust is significantly better at normal attacks. And that is because of the fact that the Rust does have a higher normal attack modifier. The attack percentages in the base attacks here are basically evened out because of, Rust having a higher base attack and a lower attack percentage, and this one having a lower base attack and a higher attack percentage. They're basically evened out there, and the thing on the normal attacks is just going to matter about the modifier there really at that point. And the thing with the Hamayumi though, if you have this at R5 and you are at 100% energy, it is still going to be very close to the Rust, even on normal attacks, but then you're also going to be getting this huge charge attack damage increase. Of course, you're not using Rust on somebody like Ganyu for your charge attack, but maybe you do have a character that loves normal attacking and charge attacking, like, I don't know, Yoimiya coming out soon, who has a special charge attack and really is focused on normal attacks. I think Hamayumi is, of course, going to be a really good option for her, because then you're going to be able to use both. But if you only care about normal attacks, Rust is definitely going to be the way to go. This one just offers you that extra utility, and it is a little weird to have your energy at 100% to get the double bonus, which is kind of annoying. But overall, Hamayumi is a phenomenal free-to-play Rust, essentially. Hamayumi, if you have this, you can get this at R5 just by getting the prototypes, which I know are hard to do. But if you get those prototypes, you can basically just have an R5 Rust, except this one was free, because Rust you can only get in gacha, which can definitely be annoying and is entirely RNG based. Now, so we've talked about these 4 stars and my thoughts on those, but what about the Amos Bow? How does the Amos Bow, that has a much lower normal and charge attack damage modifier, compared to something like the Rust and the Hamayumi. Even the Hamayumi at R1 here has a higher normal attack modifier, but the same charge attack modifier. The only difference here is that the Amos has huge base attack and a really high attack percentage. So our attack is certainly going to be higher, and then it also has this bonus of increasing the damage further by like 8% every 0.1 seconds it's in the air. It's a little weird, but you know, it's still really good and increasing your damage. Let's go ahead and just check out the numbers on these so you guys have a reference for all three of them. All right, so let's go ahead and check out our normal attacks here. Guy's already out of his little DR phase. And, oh, our little crit thing right now. We're definitely have to re-up the crit. That is important. Make sure we're critting. And, yeah, you can see this is very similar to the Hamayumi's damage. And as we get further back, of course, that changes because it's a weird passive, but it's kind of hard to hit those consistently. And I really wish it wouldn't block. That's really annoying. And, yeah. So you can see this is a lot more comparable to the Hamayumi than it is the Rust for normal attacks, at least. But when it comes to charge attacks, of course, the Amos Bow is just going to be the best, especially on Ganyu, because for those of you who don't know, that passive persists the entirety of the second arrow's like hit duration there. So that is going to matter. And this is going to be dealing the same as the R1 Hamayumi for the charge attack for the most part. But that extra damage you get from Amos's passive for the suspension of the arrow in the air is definitely going to matter. Now, don't get me wrong, I'm not trying to tell you to use Rust or Hamayumi on your Ganyu. I mean, actually, the Hamayumi is great for Ganyu, but if you have Amos Bow, that's going to be her best in slot. But Hamayumi is actually going to be a really good charge attack option as well, because that passive is going to be increasing a ton, especially at full energy. So if you don't have Amos and you have Ganyu and you're looking for a good charge attack bow, this isn't going to be a bad one whatsoever. The Amos Bow is really good here, but essentially they're going to be dealing the same amount of damage. This one's just going to be increasing because of the duration deal, but the more refinements you get on this, the closer you get to the Amos's passive. And the whole purpose of this video was to just kind of show you guys the differences in the numbers and how big those differences may or may not be, just so you guys have an idea of what you may or may not want to invest in, because weapon materials can be few and far between sometimes, especially if you're excited about a bunch of new weapons. And the Hamayumi is a new weapon. I'm sure a bunch of you are wanting to level it up. So that's just one thing to consider there, and that's kind of why I wanted to do all this. And show you guys that the Hamayumi is very comparable to the Rust. Essentially, it's just a better Rust for charge attack, optional charge attack at least. Like, it's very close in the charge attacks, or in the normal attacks actual damage, especially once you get those higher refinement ranks. But then once you get the, but if you have your character also wants to charge attack, then it's also going to be useful for that. It's just that passive is a little weird, needing the 100% energy to really get comparable to the rest on the normal attacks. But overall, that's just kind of how they work. And I wanted to show you guys all of these things in this video. Let me know if it helped you guys out. Since I had all three of these bows and they're all very similar, I figured it would be a good opportunity to show you guys the differences in those, in case you just happen to get a Rust and a Hamayumi and you're like, well, what do I level up? Hopefully this helped you out a little bit, because the Rust is certainly going to be better in normal attacks. But if you have a higher refinement rank Hamayumi, then maybe you're going to want to use that. Anyway, I've rambled on long enough. If you guys enjoyed the video, please leave a like and subscribe for more content like this. I got a couple more videos in the works here, and I hope you guys enjoyed those as well. My name is Blossoms, and I'll catch you guys in the next one. All right? Peace.